back in 1971, at the time of the D.B.Cooper incident, hijackings like this hadn't really happened before. So I want to know what kind of person would attempt something like this and why.
It was a daring crime that no one had gotten away with before or since.
So on November 24th, 1971, a man boarded a Northwest Orient flight in Portland under the alias Dan Cooper, otherwise known as D.B. Cooper. He was on his way to Seattle. He was polite, well-dressed, showed no signs of nervousness, but he handed the flight attendant a note saying that he had a bomb. He demands $200,000 in cash and small bills, which would be about $1.2 million today, and 4 parachutes, which was gathered by the FBI along with the ransom money.
The FBI delivered the money and the 4 parachutes to the plane after it landed on the runway in Seattle.
Once the demands were met, he released all the passengers and the crew except for 1 flight attendant and 2 pilots. At approximately 7:40 p.m., the plane takes off from Seattle to Reno. Cooper gave specific flight instructions to fly at 200 miles an hour at a maximum of 10,000 feet of altitude.
According to flight transcripts, 20 minutes after takeoff, the aft stairs of the 727 were lowered, and it's believed that soon afterward, Cooper jumped out with the money. While the plane continued on to Reno, the FBI concluded Cooper must have landed somewhere in a 10-square-mile area near the city of Amboy.
And from there began probably the greatest manhunt in history.
Cooper and the money vanished into thin air. After an exhaustive 45-year investigation, the FBI came up empty-handed and officially gave up the search in 2016, leaving one of the most notorious heists in U.S. history unsolved. I managed to find an aerial photograph from 1971, and based on topography at the time, I could only identify a handful of open clearings, each no bigger than 1/4 mile wide on each side. Could Cooper have hit a target zone that small after jumping out of a plane, rocketing through the dark at 200 miles an hour?
I was just up in the Pacific Northwest and surveying the area where D.B. Cooper supposedly would have landed if he jumped. And it was completely covered in woods. And you look at the maps, I saw a couple clearings about 1/4 mile of 1/4 mile where he would have been able to land safely. When D.B. Cooper jumped out of the plane, he jumped at 10,000 feet going 200 miles an hour, and there was 5,000 feet of cloud cover. He jumped out, basically no eyes, no ears.
That's crazy.
It was crazy, all right.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to have been able to jump out of the plane completely blind in the middle of a forest and still land in that same 1/4 mile area?
Not without some amazing math skills to calculate when you're supposed to jump. No GPS in the 70s, so he's just figuring, I'm taking off from point A, Seattle Airport, heading south for an estimated 30 minutes of time, and then he's gonna hop out and try and make that target.
So basically what you're saying is the only thing he would have been able to do is time it using his watch. If he knew when the plane was taking off, how fast it was going, what altitude, when to jump out, then possibly he could have hit that 1/4 mile by 1/4 mile landing spot.
It's a tall order.
So just how accurate would Cooper's math have had to be? Craig has agreed to help me design a test to find out. We've set up a 1/4 mile by 1/4 mile target on the ground. Craig will jump directly over the drop zone, representing a perfectly timed jump. And I'll follow 30 seconds after to see if Cooper could still hit his target, even with a small miscalculation in the air.
How you feeling? First time jump? Yeah, I definitely say that my heart's going a little faster.
Let's do it, man.
Let's go hijack a plane.
Even though we'll have much safer conditions than Cooper had on the night of the heist, my nerves are still on edge.
I can't imagine jumping out after this hijacking this thing. All right, we're All right, you feel in the event of an emergency, you are prepared to save your own life?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Are you ready to skydive?
Yeah, let's do it.
Give me 5.
All right, here we go. Open the door.
Deep breath.
How exact would Cooper have had to be to hit this quarter-mile wide target zone in 1971?
Oh, we look good. D.B.Cooper leaving the plane.
The answer is 10,000 feet, straight down.
Under my parachute. Got my landing area spotted down there now. And we're on the ground. And I can still see Christof. He's downrange quite a ways.
Dude, it's freakier than it looks. Like, jumping out, like, with complete clear visibility, you still feel completely disoriented. So I can't imagine doing this pitch dark and not being able to see. And if this whole thing was trees right here, and you came in at the speed that I was going, I mean, it would kill you.
Can you even see Craig?
We must have landed pretty far apart, because I've got no idea where he landed. Somewhere over there, I think.
That 30-second delay translated into a 2-mile difference between Craig's landing and mine. So for Cooper to hit his quarter-mile target, he'd only have had a 4-second margin of error. Otherwise, he'd go crashing into the forest. Add to that the stormy conditions on the night of the skyjacking. Timing a jump within that small of a window would be nearly impossible.
I'm like shaking right now.
Shark Week starts Thursday, November 26 on Discovery.